Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of Marketing Rapid Fire. I'm so excited to have all of you here with us and this wonderful panel. We have such a diverse panel today. I mean, they're all in such different, unique, and cool industries. So, super excited to host this. As you probably know by now, my name is Vanshika Mehta. I'm basically a brand storyteller, communications consultant, community builder, and a very proud solopreneur since Jan 2020. And I'm really excited to bring forth episode 11 to all of you. For all of you that are attending this for the first time, I'll just give you a quick insight into what the session is going to look like. So basically, these are all four amazing marketers that I have with me, and they're going to get quizzed on 12 different questions, and they have just a minute to answer each question. There is a buzzer that will ring at the minute point, so they'll know that the 1 minute timer is up. Other than that, it's a very free flowing conversation. Please use the chat box to kind of put in any other questions you may have. If we do have time in the end, I'd be more than happy to get them answered from the panelists. But really looking forward to kind of interacting with all of you via this meet as well as via the chat box that we have here. So over to the panelists. If you could all take a quick minute and introduce yourself, that would be great. Aarti, you can go for it first.
Hi, thanks Vanshika for having me here. This promises to be an exciting session. My name is Aarti Gupta. I am the co-founder of StyleNote.in. It's an online shopping platform for women, and our focus is personalization. So our job is to make sure that when you go shopping, you don't have to browse through thousands and thousands of things and figure out, will this fit me, will this look good on me? And that's where StyleNote comes in. We shortlist those pieces based on a profile that you fill. So I actually am deep into a very strong personalization focused business.
That's awesome. So lovely to have you here. Ashutosh?
Hey, hi, this is Ashutosh, and currently looking for expansion and growth for Rapido. And I'm currently in New Delhi, and Delhi is a new market for Rapido, and in which we have a lot of segments and verticals to launch. And yeah, so it's been 2 years while launching a lot of cities with Rapido. So I joined when they have 8 cities, and now we're currently 95 plus cities in India. And I hope you guys are definitely our customers to us, and yeah, looking forward.
Awesome, awesome. So lovely to have you here. Rishi?
Hey everyone, this is Rishi Desai. I'm currently leading marketing in Ajna Lens. So Ajna Lens is India's like one of the kind tech startup that is into augmented reality and mixed reality glasses. So in like December, we did like the whole rebranding, and I took the charge from there onwards. So basically, we have developed a product, especially in COVID times, to scan and identify potential COVID-19 carriers in large crowds.
Wow.
And with just the glasses. So currently people are using those handheld scanners, which don't work for larger crowds in open places like airports and railway stations. So we have launched that product, as well as we also work with defense and enterprises.
Very
Before that,
cool.
I was into, and before Ajna Lens, I was into like social media agency. So yeah, I have like diverse experiences in marketing.
Awesome to have you here. Go for
Thank
it.
you.
First of all, Vanshika, thank you for inviting me to such an amazing platform. About me, I was an engineer, but after my sixth backlog, I understood that this is not for me. So I started searching for something that was really interesting, and that's where I found digital marketing. At 21, I started my own startup. It was online platform for fashion designers. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, but yeah, I found a field that really excited me, and then I came to digital marketing. Currently, I'm working as a senior marketing manager, handling performance marketing in Yellow Messenger. Yellow Messenger creates conversational AI chatbots. Yep, that's about me.
All right, awesome. So I hope you all got to know who's on the panel today and a little bit about them. I just ran a quick poll, and it seems like we've got a lot of people here who have attended a marketing rapid fire before. So welcome back. I mean, I'm sure you know what the flow is and how it's going to be. So let's hope this episode is better than any of the others that you've ever attended. So quickly, let's begin. We'll begin with the generic questions to kind of get you warmed up a little bit before we dive into the hardcore marketing questions. As you all know, you have a minute to answer. So first question goes out to Aarti. Apart from money, what is the biggest marketing related roadblock that startups face in 2020?
Changing user behavior. I think the ability to understand, I mean, this is a world event, it's a life event, and every marketer has a certain game plan in mind, right? And we all were kind of drawn back to the whiteboard to figure out that, okay, how is behavior changing as a result of COVID? Consumer behavior, lifestyle is changing, so some behavior is coming from that, but a lot of it is also in the psychographics. So as a marketer, it's not just about running after your customers. Even if your audience is there, what is it that they're thinking about? What is the change, and how is it going to impact you? Do you have to make fixes at your end in terms of your business model, in terms of your communication, your channels? All of that is at the front and center of how to think about marketing in this time. So yeah, at StyleLook, for example, we've always been targeting working women. And which means that invariably we also got a lot of requirement for workwear and formal clothes. And whoa, there's no formal clothes.
That was the first. That's the first time it's ever happened. But nice to know. Please continue what you were saying.
It just says that I speak too much. No, I would want to take more of time, but I literally tracking the changes in customer behavior, and it's not going to be that easy for us to predict a lot of behavior. So being very mindful of data patterns and then figuring out your game plan.
Very true, very true. Ashutosh, what do you think?
I think your product should be a right fit, and the customer should have should differentiate your product with your competitors, irrespective how many money or that you have, but the right product and the right fit, which will be the best thing in the market. That's it. Your customer should know what you have and what you don't have, what your competitor has. So yeah.
Got it. Rishi?
So I definitely second Ashutosh here, because just as we realized that our other products are not going to work, so we thought of how to use our existing technology and build a product that can be used in the current times. So that was one of them. And I think second biggest challenge is communication, because right now your customer might not be in a space where they can buy your product, but you still need to empathize with them and build that constant engagement and connection and bonding, so that over the period when things are better, they will come back to you and be your fan.
That's very true. Shivam?
So I agree with Aarti here. I think a lot of startups make a mistake that they do not study their customers much. I mean, you have to figure out what your prospect is, where they are, and what they're looking for, because all those things they turn out to be important in writing the conversation. I mean, writing the ad copies and everything. So I think that's one thing that every startup should worry about and give more time to it.
Absolutely, would totally agree with that. All right, awesome. Second question is, so there are many different formulas or ways of kind of funneling, the market funnel. You have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. You have AIDA, which is that interest desired, action interest desires for funnel. How do you use these funnels to target and understand your customer decisions through their journey and using digital platforms? Like, what do you do on each stage so that your customer really understands you and your business and what you're offering to them in terms of value? Aarti, if you want to go first.
Sorry, I thought we were planning to switch around orders, but I don't mind going first. I'll answer this in two parts. First is generic. I mean, you do need to kind of think about what your user journey is going to be, and it all comes down to your product. If your product is something which is a commodity, which is very well understood, you're very quickly jumping, to the conversion point of the funnel. Or if you're launching, I mean, if you're marketing a relatively newer concept, a newer service, then you have a pretty long journey in terms of, making sure that you're giving that education, giving that understanding, bringing that connect between the need and the offering, and then finally driving it to conversion. So there is no flat answer to it. It really depends on your business model and how, easy it is for a user. If I launch a brand of dosa batter, it's very easy for me to sell it. People already know what it is. It's just a matter of, okay, why this dosa batter? Versus if I launch a machine that makes dosa batter, now I have a very long educational journey to do here.
Got it. Got it. Ashutosh?
So I think it's all about what you're selling, right? And what you want to educate your, customer. And like in my company, like we are selling that, we helping you to move, right? Redefining India to commute. So for now, I really, like the point that there's no such a straight answer, and a theory behind it. The funnel should be depends on, what product you are selling and how the customer is educated. If the the market is fragile, if the market is educated about your product, it's easy for you to get triggered them as a customer. But otherwise, it depends geographically, and I think that's all about this.
Got it. Rishi?
Repeat the
Yeah, so the question was basically that there are many types of marketing funneling. So there's tofu, mofu, bofu, there's AIDA. How do you target these different parts of the decision journey in your digital environment? Like, what would you do at your company to kind of use and understand what stage they're at and then market to them?
So to what product you are selling and how much in the industry. If yeah, your product with the competitors, but like for someone like us, when it's a completely new industry, we have to focus a lot more on awareness stage. Because like no one knows the technology. So
no, I think he got dropped. I think his internet is acting up. That's fine. Shivam, do you want to take it?
Yeah.
Or wait, Rishi's back. Okay, Rishi's back.
yeah, so I was just saying that you just need to figure out how much to someone before they can actually decide that, oh, I need this product.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Shivam, go for it.
So I'm going to talk about it in the perspective of B2B marketing. So there are a lot of stages where you have to target a customer. There are a few customers who do not know why do they need the product. So you have to send them blogs, you have to send them case studies, you have to send them ebooks saying that this is why you need this right now. And then there are stages where people know actually about your product. They know about your competitor. So you're telling them case studies saying that we helped this company by increasing their revenue by X percentage. Now, the next thing is they're already your customers, but now you need people to talk about you, to write good reviews. So marketing to those customers would be different. So I think for every different kind of stage and funnel, you need a different kind of marketing.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. All right. Next question is a very fun one, and it's a two-part question. So, Rasodi mein kaun tha? We've all seen that meme. We've all heard of that meme. I mean, it's gone to the next level. Kisne socha tha ki aisa hoga? So the first part of the question is, who was there? If you have to answer that first. And the second part of the question is, do you really think that taking on meme cultures in businesses today, in our communications, really brings in any customer loyalty? What are your thoughts on meme marketing plus customer loyalty? And who was in the kitchen? Rasodi mein kaun tha? वो answer करना पड़ेगा पहले. Aarti, you're muted.
Do I need to go first? Okay, sorry. Rasode Mein Kaun Tha, I honestly have never seen this series till that meme actually came out. I have no idea about it. It came from absolutely the left field, but once I started watching it, I have to say, I got hooked, not to the show, but to the meme. meme culture, I mean, it may not get you loyalty in terms of transactions. It certainly can get you loyalty as a brand. And it's not the meme culture. I don't know if that's how I would like to call it. But the point is that, are you speaking a language that your customers are understanding and, more importantly, enjoying? And that's when that loyalty comes, right? Like, oh my God, I want to see what these guys are saying today on this topic, because they have a voice that makes sense to me, that is fun to me, and I would like to know. I think Zomato does a fabulous job with this. We do a little bit of it too, and frankly speaking, I know that the memes at StyleNook are always like, very, very high on engagement, and remember them. They actually write into us saying that, oh my God, this is so cool. So I think that culture is not, it's not about a fad, it's not about here to stay, but I think now we are more and more in a world where we have the ability to connect with users very quickly. And therefore, these kind of events just allow us to, be relevant, be right there, and actually speak the same language as your customer. So the way a Rasode Mein Kaun Tha meme would be done by a Zomato or by a StyleNook is going to be very different, because our target audience is very different, and ultimately it all comes down to what is it that connect that you're kind of talking about.
Got it. Very interesting. Ashutosh?
It's very tricky to answer kaun tha, but yeah, I think let's come to the point that it's very important right now, because your consumer is very smart, and it's very different from year to year. Our parents, they were not used to, and upcoming intakes, but everyone are related to their social media. Even my mother, she was never used to using Android phones and everything, because everyone is updating, right? Everyone wants to update, and this is the trend which goes on. And you've seen throughout the lockdown period from, and so a lot of trends are coming, right? And I think it keeps going on, and the brand should change their image, and the artist said the loyalty, the brand should keep on moving and upgrading to the customer, because customer wants new, right? Something cool in that. That's why and that's why Zomato is very good in the design.
Got it. Rishi?
So basically, I am completely in line with meme culture. If you are a brand that caters to like a younger audience, because it's just fun, and for every person, social media is just an escape. And if you are going for an escape, you want to be entertained. So in that context, I think meme culture is amazing, and it's evolving like anything. And like if you look at India's demography, the maximum percentage of people are between like are basically less than 25 years old. So the young generation is in highest number, and that's why.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's
So
just something it's so relatable. Like, I think that's what I'm hearing is it's like you have to do it to some extent because everybody's talking about it, You don't want to be left out, is I
true.
think what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Essentially, you
Shivam,
just
do you
need to
want to take
join
it?
the conversation.
Totally. Yeah. You just need to start it and then pretty much the conversation flows very naturally from there. Yeah. Shivam?
So yeah, like I'm speaking the last, so I think I'll just conclude all what three of them said because I really agree with all three of those answers. It's also about fear of missing out. I mean, Zomato and all these big brands, whenever there's something like a Rasode Mein Kaun Tha comes up, or maybe a good IPL match, or maybe something that. So they were an example when Pollard was trying to hit a guy with a bat, and all the brands just caught on that, and there was marketing about it. And yes, like I agree with Rishi that he says that people are coming for entertainment on social media, so you can't give them serious ads on social media about your brand. You have to keep it funky, you have to keep it meme wise. So yeah, meme culture is evolving, and yes, our generation do like memes and get attracted to them. So yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to put a contentious point here?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to defend my age and my generation in this. There is a generation gap here, guys. I'm in my 40s. Meme culture, such as, yes, it is much easier for the younger generation to kind of, khatakhat launch memes and roll it out. I don't think it has an age factor to it. adaptation to social media may have happened a little bit later for the older generation. And by the way, guys, I am from like the first 1,000 users of Facebook, first 1,000 users of LinkedIn, first 1,000 users of Gmail. So I'm not that.
Apologies, Aarti ji.
But what I'm saying is that, like for us, I mean, at time, look, my target audience is older. So, I'm going to refute something that you said that everybody's 25 years and younger. No, we are a larger country than that. And we actually have people who are, in fact, that is, as a marketer, a big takeaway. Think about it. Are you alienating a certain audience that's potentially target audience for you?
Yeah.
They may not be. If your product is not relevant to them, they may not be. But I work in fashion, for example, and I can tell you that most fashion brands alienate the audience which is actually likely to be loyal, likely to pay higher average order values,
Yeah.
likely to repeat on a regular basis. And in fact, my business model is the opposite of your typical e-commerce fashion business model. My customers are 30 years and older.
Yeah.
They actually repeat with me at least 4 to 5 times a year. My average order value is much higher. My CAC is much lower. My LTV is trajectory altogether. There is an audience. Do not disregard an audience that is out there.
Yeah. Totally.
Your product may not be relevant. I have specifically designed my business model and my product offering for that audience because there is enough in terms of numbers. Do remember that these are the same people who were at the beginning of the internet journey. So they may have time, even like, for me, when I launched Style 3 years ago, Instagram was not as hot a channel, whereas all fashion companies it is. And as it was Facebook. Today it's WhatsApp. I mean, the amount of WhatsApp marketing we're able to do and the engagement that we have on WhatsApp is through the roofs. So, think about your audience. As a marketer, the biggest sin you could do is just not think about your user.
Totally, yeah, totally. Very valid point. All right, awesome. So we're going on to the next section, which is all about content and content marketing. And I think you built that bridge beautifully to this section. So thanks for that. The first question goes out to you, Aarti, again. How do you keep content fresh? I mean, a lot of businesses struggle and they reach that end point where like, content becomes boring and repetitive and, just kind of starts sucking overall. So how do you keep it fresh at StyleNote? Like, what are some tips and tricks that you use? I mean, if you could share some, that would be great.
I think content, typically means you're speaking and you're saying something. If you think about communication, a good communicator is first a good listener. I think if you keep paying attention to what users are saying, what your target audience is going through, you naturally then have the ability to come up with content that makes sense for them. Otherwise, you're just stuck in this content calendar rut. And trust me, even like, internally, we often get into that rut. And I'm like, no, let's not do that. The good news is that a business model like ours, we actually have a very, very high user engagement. So for me, very often it's just literally a matter of pulling data dump of, user feedback. You get like little nuggets. Oh my God, people are saying this and again and again and again. This is relevant. Let me just go ahead now. It allows me to develop, a story around it because I already know it is something that people are thinking about. And I have a business that have the ability to capture that. When somebody comes to StyleNote, she fills out a profile. She also says what she struggles with, why, she has come to StyleNote. So for me, that's relatively easy. For I think other brands also, it's ultimately listening to your customers. I used to work at Rediff and I learned from the best in the industry. Ajit Balakrishnan, who's known as the father of the internet industry in India, right? Every day he used to spend at least 1 hour in customer care.
Wow.
It did not matter how big the company had become, and Rediff at one point was actually the poster child of India's e-commerce. It did not matter how deep and how wide it had gone, but literally every single day he used to spend time just listening into customer care calls. Because there is nothing better than listening to your user. Everything will go from there.
Totally, absolutely agree. Ashutosh?
So for me, content, I think like Aarti touched on all the topics. So I think the content is all about the communication, right? Which you want to communicate to your customer, and So it's all about, like, I am very, specific about what you are selling, right? What you want to communicate, because a lot of content is, it's sometimes, maybe the negative point for a company, right, for a startup, and it should be crisp and to the point, right? And obviously the rich content helps you to, grow organically, because when people talk about your company, about your content, about your, that I've seen the ads, I've seen on online, offline. I've seen a lot of people are moving. I'm seeing a lot of people are talking in the, Rapido kar lo, Uber kar lo, right? So
Mhm.
it's all about, it's all about, in your schedule, right? The content comes under you, right? That it becomes in your language, it becomes in, used to.
Totally, totally. Yeah, very good point raised up. Yeah, Rishi.
Yes, so like for me, content in my industry, it's very easy compared to other industries because augmented reality, mixed reality, these are the things that people are just
Buzzword,
starting to
buzzword,
explore.
buzzword. Buzzword.
So all these new technologies people are just starting to hear. Like people know Pokemon Go
Yes,
or Snapchat, Instagram filters, but beyond that, what is that they don't know much about. So for me, it becomes very easier to just educate them about what are the possibilities. And then, of course, as Aarti said, I think Twitter is the best platform for listening, where you just need to listen what the people are saying and then again join the conversation wherever you feel relevant.
totally. Yeah, makes sense. Shiva?
Yeah. So we always follow this practice where whenever a new content writer joins our company, they have to be in the sales team, take sales call for at least a month. The
Mhm.
reason is if you write content that our consumers can relate to, they will not bounce off your page in like one or two sentences. They'll read the whole page because, for example, we wrote a content on how automating employee engagement can increase their sales. Now,
Mhm.
someone who wants to increase their sales and have a lot of employees would want to read that content. And if our content writer has actually heard a customer talk about what problems they are facing and how this problem has solved after using our product, they could actually write a very very good piece. And in one short term, please write content for the person, not for Google. You can rank on
Yes.
Google, but people won't read it. So yeah.
Yes. Very good point. Yeah, totally, totally agree. All right, awesome. Next question again goes out to Aarti. So a lot of marketers talk about storytelling. It's like a very cool buzzword. Okay, like we want to implement storytelling. But can you kind of break it down and give us some guidelines or some guidance on how do you actually bring out the story in your content? Yeah, in under a minute you have.
As we bond about the time limit. Uh, I think any marketing communicate or any communication for that matter, you have a story to tell, right? Ultimately, there is a beginning, there is a conflict, there is a resolution, there's the end. Anything that you say, literally, like even if I was telling about what I cooked in the kitchen, I probably would be able to tell you in the form of a story.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the same principles apply everywhere. Fundamentally, somebody who starts and goes to the end, are they able to kind of cohesively walk away with something extra from what they had come in? And I think that should be the guiding principle for any storytelling. I'm sure there are enough internet frameworks available. I am not familiar with them because the guiding philosophy, at least in my mind and within my team at Stylelook, is literally that. Like, are you speaking to a user? Is this something that you would read? Is this something that you would enjoy and you would say that, hey, this was cool? If it is, then that's the story you need to tell. You do not need to have a sales tagline. And sorry, I'm
It's all right.
in it again.
Yeah.
But it's not about, in fact, that is the other thing, right? We have learned marketing traditionally from where there used to be hoardings and newspaper advertisements, and, it was only one way communication. And
Yeah.
we are here where communication is not one way. When you are putting out any content, whether it's an Insta post or it's a blog or anything, you instantly have reaction, you have engagement. And so the nature of your story also needs to be very receptive to that kind of a communication. In fact, your storytelling should incite people to respond. And so it's not necessarily just a one way, published story that you kind of done and you walk away from it. You own it till it actually has its life.
Got it. Yeah, very good points raised. Ashutosh?
For the, like, story, uh, in our industry, it's all about, so we can weigh it can be two-way, right? From the customer side and for the captain side, the riders, right? So we are actually have 10 lakhs riders on platform pan India. It means we have generated 10 lakhs people to come on a platform and earn money, right? So for the storytelling, we wanted to tell our customers too that we are helping people to earn money along with that. So somehow, if they're taking a ride along with us, they're helping someone to earn money, right? Irrespective of competing with the government uh, convenience and buses and metro, we are here that we are helping you to move fast, and it's all about connecting the dots, right? A person can be a customer and the rider too, right? When he wants to earn money part time, so it's a lot of a lot of communication, a lot of messages need to deliver with the storytelling, right? So I think we as a company can help to communicate the same thing to the customer and the rider both.
Yeah. Totally, I think, and that's like the thing is that like a lot of these people, like be it any delivery boys or Uber drivers or Rapido drivers, they are very underappreciated. So maybe storytelling in your instance can actually bring out that empathy and much needed appreciation that is.
Right. And
Yeah.
Since during these COVID times, a lot of people are a little bit insecure about the
Yeah.
traveling, and so we are promoting that we are all the rides are insured, and even the captains are insured, the accident will be insured. So we are just proposing our the best what we have, right? And
Got
what because we are moving, we are not stopping now,
Yeah.
right? And it's like Atmanirbhar ho gaye, sir. So
Yeah.
it's make the customer believe that we are here to help you out, right? So, yeah.
Totally.
It's all
Totally got it. Yeah, very interesting. Rishi?
Yeah, so I think now, see, everyone knows that the 21st century customer is a smart one, and you cannot just throw some fancy words and like do advertisements and then it will sell.
It won't work well.
Now it only depends on how well your customer can connect to you as an entity,
Yes.
as a brand. So that's when I think storytelling comes into place. And for storytelling, you just need to consider your brand as a person, and then see whether how would this person communicate this message. As simple as that. And then secondly, how well can you connect to your customers by not selling your product. Like you just have to think that you are not selling your product, you are actually consulting someone solve their problem as a person to person. And then I think that's where if you bring that human touch to your communication and storytelling, you can definitely succeed.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean that's what storytelling does. It brings out that human touch. Totally, very good points. Yeah, Shivam, sorry.
Yeah, that's great. So I follow two simple rules of storytelling, just not in terms of marketing, but also while having a conversation or while pitching to an investor. So the first one is keep it so simple that the other person can actually picturize that story in their head. Okay.
Absolutely.
And the second one is keep it such interesting that the other person can imagine himself being a part of that story. So I'll give you an example of such a recent Ola ad that I found really, really beautiful was a driver finding his key and says that my wife is so scared of me going out in COVID that she hid my key. But
So,
I am taking care of myself by sanitizing myself and putting that shield. Now Ola, they did not promote themselves. They just showed how careful their drivers are. Now it was such a beautiful way that I was actually imagining sitting behind on the back seat and seeing the driver sanitizing himself and putting the shield. So something like that is something that would make it
wonderful.
story.
Yeah, totally. I will definitely look up that ad. It seems very, very interesting. All right. Now here's the fun part. We're going to switch it over. So from here on, Shivam is going to get the first question. Then Rishi, then Ashutosh, then Aarti. So Shivam, first question that goes out to you of this continuation of this segment. If you had to market content and you had only one choice or one channel to pick, and your choices were between SEO, PPC, or social media, which one would you go with and why?
My answers might differ now because previously I had like 3 chances to make up my answer in my head.
This is why we switch it around.
But yeah, if I had an option of promoting my content, it would definitely be social media. It would really depend on what portal I'm using. If I'm marketing to very serious HRs, I would probably use an in-mail advertisement for LinkedIn. If the content is about how hip a particular trend is, I would use Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook, and use a demographic of 20 to 35 of age. So yeah, I would choose social media over SEO. SEO takes a lot of time. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a very good source. I mean, organic is really important, but if your requirement is to get a lot of traffic in a very less time, I think social media is the best platform.
Got it. Makes sense. Rishi?
Yes, I completely agree with Shivam actually, because SEO takes a lot of time. So organic traffic is like, now there is nothing organic. That's what people say. Like most of it is monetized. Even on social media, there is a very small amount of organic reach that happens, and it's still decreasing day by day. But still, I would again go for social media and like find my customers on right platforms, and then imagine myself doing, or imagine my customer doing it, like using the social media on like which platform at what time. So at that time, you just need to be present there in front of them, and just have a conversation.
Got it. Got it. Ashutosh?
Yeah, like I have said in the earlier that all of my customers, and it depends on your customer where you found your customers. And since every customer you can find on YouTube, using Facebook, Instagram, and somewhere around that, so obviously the social media will be the best to get the results out of that. And like we all are working in a startup, and every startup work on the results at the lesser time, right? So obviously social media helps you to reach your goal faster, right? Rest is like let's definitely, like if you're taking the option, it means it make worth, right? They have some worth, but for a quick results, like social media is the king.
Yeah. Got it. Aarti?
I'm going to say it depends. Because I don't think there is one straight answer. It really is about what is your product, what is the life cycle of your product, who's your audience, where are they engaging. Social media could be a very strong answer. Like, I'll concur with everyone that yes, I mean, pretty much you end up with an ability to target a large chunk of the audience through social media, but I don't think you can just blindly follow that as gospel. You really constantly, always as a marketer, have to examine what is my product, who's my customer, where are they, going to meet. Chances are, given the penetration of social media, 90% of the times your answers are going to be one of the social media platform. But you can't really guarantee that. I'll give you an example. I have an entrepreneur who runs a skincare brand. And they've been around for 10 years, very successful. It's not even a startup anymore. And as they went more and more digital, social media has actually not worked out too well because it's very competitive for skincare, and they have a very, very specific Ayurvedic, format, and the products are all natural. There is tremendous amounts of education that's needed, which cannot happen in posts and ads and any of that. And the only thing that has truly worked for them is having a really detailed blog. And the blog is not just about SEO. It's not about how quickly the blog will get SEO'd and give traffic. At the end of it, it's about meeting that, end customer's journey. The customer doesn't really know why this product is so fantastic because they have a very, very loyal user base. And as they've kind of gone online and gone deeper, that is the platform that has emerged to be the, most important platform. So I wouldn't blindly just put a stake somewhere and say this is what works and this is what doesn't work. It truly, truly comes down to what you are selling, to whom you are selling, and why they need to meet on the platform where they need to meet.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Very interesting insight. And especially like you said, like it's a very specific product and there was lack of information and education. And yeah, it makes complete sense in terms of that. Absolutely.
I'll give my own company's example also, right? So for example, for me, I also have social media channels, and instantly out of the door, the thought was that Instagram would be the channel. You're a fashion company, you're talking about styling, and Insta has to be the channel because that's where everybody talks. But my God, Insta is really cluttered with this.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, also for me, my target audience is actually the working woman.
Yeah.
And I found that LinkedIn ended up being a much more valuable channel for me than Insta. I wouldn't diss Insta. I'm saying in the priority of things, I've just found that LinkedIn worked better. And by the way, a lot of offline marketing has also worked really well for me.
Got it.
So you just cannot say that, hey, this is a channel and that's what will work and everything else is not going to work. You really have to examine it from the point of view of offering.
Got it. Makes sense. All right. Next question goes to Shivam first. So with visual content taking a lot of precedence these days, I mean, people hate reading text. Like you make anything into a video and people will watch it, or you make it into a GIF or a meme or anything visual, right? What is your take on creating this kind of content cheap and fast? How do you create this visual repository of things on any channel? I'm not even talking a specific channel. How do you do it cheap and fast so that you're not just a text-based kind of a business?
So I'll just talk about how, like, I really don't think that, text-based is boring, because something that has to be explained by text. I mean, I cannot make a GIF about
Why
how.
can't you make a tutorial?
Sorry?
Why can't you make a video tutorial?
Uh, yeah, video tutorial could be a thing, but aren't we talking about GIFs and pictures and images?
GIFs, pictures, video. I mean, I'm just talking as visual content as a whole. Like, how do you create that fast and quick and in a manner that your audience is excited about it, rather than say reading a 5,000 word blog? How do you do it fast and quick?
Probably use a tool like Airmeet, collect 4 marketers, and then make a video out of it.
Yes. I mean, interviews are definitely, for B2B, it works amazingly. I mean, do you have some instances you want to share?
Yeah, so it's really hard to enter a new country where you do not have much branding. So what we usually do is we try and conduct webinars with, influential people in that particular country.
Right.
And it's a video webinar, we're having a good conversation, and it builds a brand. Like, these are some people who are also, doing this kind of stuff.
Totally.
So yeah, I think video webinars, podcast is something, it's not video, but yeah, podcast is something that's really taking over the B2B world right now.
Yeah, makes sense. I would totally agree with you on that. Rishi?
So I think here my inspiration comes into picture. That's Gary Vee. So essentially,
Dude, if somebody can tell me how he does it, like how? How does he do this?
it's just document versus creating. So you just keep on documenting your journey just through it's you. Everyone has a phone, and you just keep on documenting your journey about your products. It can be just you talking in front of a camera and explaining things about your product, and that one, like, you can just take out half an hour to record that, and that half an hour can turn into like so many small, like, 1 minute videos, images that you can cut out and some lines. I think that that process works the best. The only thing in that process is
document and then
yeah, so only thing that all of us, the reason why we don't do it is because of our fear, because we feel that, okay, this content is not that good, but essentially it's just that we want speed.
Yeah, totally agree. Ashutosh?
Like I have a very different, so I think in my, in my current company, I think the video comes, like, it depends, like if I'm a customer, right? If I'm watching a video of a customer feedback, right? Video terms that, I've used it, and they give us the helmet, they sanitize the helmet, they give us the hair cap. It's totally helped me to, you have a trust on the brand before using it, right? With the app banners, with a lot of, like, you can give multiple text messages, push notification. I hardly open those, right? When I wake up in the morning, I, like, pre-COVID, I used to get those se teen go I view okay, ek make my trip ka. Like, even those current days, I'm getting daily, push notification from Oyo, right? But there's no motivation, right, to opening it, right? And they can so now they are, I think, a lot of travel and a lot of, the hospitality are moving towards the long packages, right? You can move to Goa and, have a long packages, monthly packages. So it's all depends ki whether I want that message, or, and whether if I'm seeing a person like me using the same service. It's all about, getting clicked, right? And yeah, I think the video works in that way around as a customer feedback, and the about your customer feedback, and
yeah. Totally. Aarti?
I think this is one of those questions where enough has already been said, and I'm going forward, so there isn't a lot for me to add. I come from again a generation where we used to actually have to have a creative team in house or outsourced who would sit and build these collateral out, and we just move very fast now. We don't have time for sitting and writing briefs and all of that, right? I mean, I've written briefs in my career throughout, and now it's literally a matter of, because things move really fast. The good news is that there are enough and more tools that are also coming out. I mean, Canva is what Canva is for a very, very strong. It has made like a big industry completely defunct. And so from that point of view, it really again depends on the nature of the content that you're trying to do. It's now quite easy. Here's the other thing also, that you no longer are also expected to have a very high quality.
Yes.
I remember, so when I was the CEO at Hopscotch and I wanted to do a video, and I went to somebody who had come recommended, and they said, great, this is going to cost 40 lakhs. I said, thank you, but no, I'm not giving you 40 lakhs, right? I don't have 40 lakhs to spend on a video. If I had 40 lakhs, and I did have 40 lakhs, but I could spend it on a whole lot of other channels to do a lot of other things.
Yes.
I want a basic video to be made about just, I don't even remember what video I was trying to make. And that person really came back to me and said, ma'am, it looks like you don't have any experience of the advertising industry. And I had to come back and say, yeah, actually I do, and which is exactly why
Which is why.
fast enough. This concept is actually going to die down very quickly, because you've been used to making content only for television. And each campaign, just because the cost of the distribution of the campaign is so high, the creation cost kind of gets justified, because each television campaign is worth several crores. And so therefore, if you're earmarking about 500 crore of it for just the creation of that content, it's fine. I'm in the online space, my content changes every week. I cannot sit and create this kind of a content. And that has changed now. I mean, that if you see today, you will not get those kind of quotations anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't even need big studios and heavy setups. You have a lot of tools, a lot of user generated content that can be stitched together to become valuable content to your own site.
Totally agree. Awesome. Yeah, wonderful insight. Yeah. Shivam, next question back to you again. In under a minute, can you explain how would you start a company blog from scratch? What all do you need to do? What all must be done? What all do you need to remember in under a minute?
Okay, so as I previously said, understand your customer. That's the first and foremost thing you should do. Secondly, just decide on how much do you want to write, how long should the blog be, what kind of blog do your customers read, and that's it. That are a few things that I would follow. One more thing I would do is I would actually create a gated content, because having a own media is very important. You need to have your newsletters, you need to have your email list. Yeah. So
Okay.
these are things I would do.
Awesome. Rishi?
Yes, so adding on top of what Shivam just said, I think as we all know, we follow this marketing funnels and all. So for every stage, you define basically different content buckets and what all your customers need to know in a step-by-step manner, so that eventually it leads to purchase and also loyalty. So
Yeah.
I think I would just create those content, and then also kind of decide how. Basically what is the take away from that one piece of content. I think that clear CTA needs to be there in any piece of blog.
Absolutely. Agreed. Ashutosh?
So I think like Shivam, gives the best answer right to that. Just to add one very small thing, it's all about funnel. It's all about what you want to communicate, and how it's all about journey, right? On what journey you have to take your customer to be, right? And at the end, it's all about the channels which you have to share with that. So I think
Got it.
that's a very best thing about that.
Yeah, totally. Aarti?
I wouldn't start a blog in under an hour to begin with. So I think it's important to learn what content resonates with your user before you put your name fully behind it. Your social media is a great way to kind of test out that content, because longevity is lower, right? I mean, things get forgotten very easily. Once it's on your blog, it's there. And I think at any point, when somebody comes to a blog and they want to kind of, that's an instant visual, into who you are as a company, what do you stand for as a brand. And it's very important that that piece is figured out. So I like the idea of actually testing it out also where users are already there. Because
Hmm.
if you have a blog on your site, you also have the onus now of pulling traffic to it.
Yes.
There could be SEO traffic, which is fine, but otherwise, an SEO, like we've just earlier discussed, it takes time to develop. So it's not on day one that you're going to start pulling this traffic. Where you're pulling paid or even organic traffic to your site, do you want to kind of, divert it to the blog? So that therefore the blog needs to do a really strong job of being able to take that traffic and convert it. And therefore, for that content to be tested out, to be reasoned out, you have social media, right? You can test it out there, build a stash of content, then come and say, okay, now I'm ready to launch my blog. Coming down to the modalities and technicalities, I mean, there's WordPress, there's, I don't know, hajar other things.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation for another day. Let's quickly dive into the last segment and the last three questions of the show. So this segment is around personalization in marketing, which is every marketer's struggle and happy points when it goes right. I was also reading a research recently by Gartner that said that when companies invest in online personalization, they outsell their counterparts by approximately 30%, which just goes to show the power of personalization. And it's a word we are all chasing. So quickly, let's get on to the first question. Shivam, this goes to you. On an email, right? How do you go beyond just that first name wala personalization? Like, what else can you do with your data so that it doesn't just become hi Vanshika and then generic email? Can you share some insights on that?
First of all, I'm actually missing being the fourth one to answer. But yeah, so yeah, we do run a lot of outbound emails in B2B. And it's just not about saying hi, first name or last name. It's about talking about the problems. So let's say if I'm writing an email to Vanshika's company, Style. So I'll be talking about, hey, we are into stitching business, and I've heard that, you're trying to do this particular thing. So I can help you do that. Okay. It just be one generic email that, hey, my name is Shivam. I'm doing this. My business is this, and all those things. It has to be something that she can relate to. She can say, yes, I think I need this service. So once you get that hook right, like when the other person thinks that maybe I need this, that's it. You can start your conversation and then convert them later.
Got it. Rishi?
So I think there are plenty of tools available today which give you more personalization apart from the first name. So you can personalize your first name, last name, organization name, city name. You can also do what do you call industry. So essentially, what I would do is I would break I'll get the entire list built up for cold emails, but then I will segregate them and put them into different content buckets. So let's say if I am sending it to like all the resorts, for example, CEOs and managers of all the resorts. So then I will address their problem in one mail and then send it to only that particular list. So that way the problem is clearly identified for that particular list of people. And that way I think it will be more personalized by just segregating the database into relevant groups and then targeting them with individual emails.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Ashutosh?
So I think it's very different in my industry. We have less companies to pitch, but yeah, we have few new products. We recently launched in this pandemic. We launched Rapido Local, Rapido Corporate, where we have to tie-ups with a lot of corporates, which they have which they paid for their employees, right? I think if I talk about a Rapido B2B, where we recently working with a lot of big companies like Amazon, GeoMart. So obviously in the it should be crisp and clear. We might help you delivering the products, right? And it's something which I can help with them with what they're doing right now. And I think it's in my industry, it's like very straight that I can be a delivery partner, right? With a very nominal cost, because in industry, in current scenario, to have your own fleet, delivery fleet, it's not easy task, right? You might see Domino's and Pizza Hut have their own fleet, but rest they don't have. So they need me helping their products to deliver. That's it.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Aarti?
I run an out-and-out personalization platform. So for me, it is actually not even like something, my user base is, in fact, I already have about 65 data points on my customer, even before she's placed her first order, because she fills out her profile. I know her taste, I know her preferences, I know her size, I know her shape, I know her budgets. So for me, all my marketing campaigns are always kind of, focusing on making sure, because it's pointless to promote something to Vanshika, which is not even Vanshika's style or her taste or her size. Why should I even waste my, promotion with that? You'd rather have fewer marketing drops but relevant ones. So in my business model, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. And like Rishi mentioned, the tools you have, actually the tools can be stretched above and beyond just the basics of your name, address, all of that. That's actually the bare minimum, the scratching of the surface. I've actually coded our email list to kind of operate on far more parameters. And I don't just do this on email, by the way. I do this on all trigger points. So WhatsApp for me, like I said earlier, also is a really strong marketing tool. Again, like we're right now able to run a closed sale. It's a closed sale. It's not even open. I'm not marketing it anywhere on social media. But I actually know that, okay, for this sale, who are my users who are relevant? Because I have their profiles. I have their past journeys. I already know what they've bought in the past. I know what's going to be, relevant for them. And therefore, knowing what is going out to sale, I can just literally target to that audience and drive a very high conversion rate. See, as a marketer, ultimately your goal is to drive a high conversion rate, because that's where your traffic stress lowers. If you're driving a high conversion rate, if you're driving a high retention, that constant, stress for a marketer is bring new traffic, spend more, get new traffic, get, cheaper traffic, it automatically goes down. If you're focusing on like your conversion. So personalization in other industries, I mean, again, this is a topic, it's a huge topic, and one whole hour can go into
Totally.
you can think about it for the product that you have, but absolutely 100%. Now we no longer have the luxury of doing spray and pray marketing.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Absolutely agreed. Shivam, next question back to you. So account-based marketing, right? B2B mein to everybody's heard of this at least once, if not many more times. Even in B2C, account-based is now becoming a thing. How are you ensuring that you're not getting creepy and at the same time are personalizing your communication enough? So for example, like the other day I went on a website. I don't even know when. I probably visited it, gave them some information. The chat box showed up with like, "Hi Vanshika, haven't seen you here in a long time. How can I help you today?" And I was like, who are you? And it was really creepy. So how do you kind of ensure that even when using ABM, you are doing it effectively in a manner that's personalized and doesn't startle your audience when they land up on your website?
Okay. So in our sector, account-based marketing is just selecting a particular list of companies that you really want to get hold of, and then targeting them on different sectors. I mean, different platforms. So let's say if I have XYZ and this list of companies, I can just upload them on, create a custom audience out of it on any platform that is available, and then show them the ads. So I'll just give you an example of one thing that we actually tried. So we wanted to, get known in a particular MNC, and we were trying to reach out the CEO for a very long time. We were sending emails. We started showing ad to this person, but he wasn't replying. So what we did was we just wrote we just made a banner that we want to talk to your CEO, and showed it to all the employees of that company.
Very cool.
They found it pretty creative. The CEO reached back to us saying that, "Hey, I really loved your ad, and the idea pitched. So let's talk business now."
Not bad. Not bad. Very, very smart. Very interesting. Rishi, any cool instances?
So I think like one major thing that you just need to do is reverse engineer their footprints. So like if you're looking at partnering with a company X, then you need to know, like, first of all, who is the person who's going to make the decision, and as well as who is he working with, like his team, his people around him, So either you have the option that just Shivam just say that you target that company's employee. If it's a big company, you can directly get their option in Facebook targeting. If not, then you can basically tap the employees on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, you have like multiple tools to get their emails, and then you also have basically, like, you can also go more creatively by going old age. Like, you can write them a letter, a customized letter that shows up on your door,
Hyper
and
personalization.
I think that would just surprise the hell out of them. Like, oh,
Yes,
what is this?
totally. Yeah, I mean, good old means always, like nothing can beat that, right? Like
Yeah,
you will read it. You have no choice. Then,
exactly.
Ashutosh?
I think the connections and obviously the new age tool which we connected, LinkedIn. Uh, Everyone selling and connecting, and exchanging their thoughts, businesses, opportunity, and I think this is the best, in my segment as of now. Like, since we are not a B2B centric one, right? But since we also, picking up our B2B market, so yeah, if I wanted to onboard any company XYZ, maybe a Geolife or maybe Mindra, obviously, the LinkedIn plays a very, important role, which they can, definitely I can find the right point of contact, right, which can help me to get through that.
Got it. Yeah. Aarti, what do you do for ABM?
Hi. I actually don't do a whole lot, so I was very happy to hear what everybody is doing because I'm learning.
Okay, awesome. Shivam, there's a question for you to repeat how you ran that campaign, or if you can just share a little bit of insight.
Okay.
There's a question from Shekhar who's asking.
Okay, so as Rishi said that there are options to target a particular employee of the company on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. So you can just select in the LinkedIn advertising that I want to show ads to this company. You can just use a single image ad. It would cost you probably like somewhere around 120, 130 rupees a click. But that's if you're targeting in India. And yeah, so that's how you do it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. All right, last question of this entire show, and it's been such a lovely. I mean, I've learned so much just listening to you guys. But last question for all of you again goes back to Shivam. How do you use intent-based data to help market your product or service better?
Okay. So actually, I spoke about this in my first answer, where I told you how we use our newsletters to reach out to people. Now, when you have gated content, so let's say if a gated content is a case study, they're into consideration stage. If a gated content is about how a particular thing works, they're into awareness stage. So let's say if someone downloads my gated content for awareness, they would start getting emails that are related to that. So it's like I'll give them blogs, I'll give them about how this thing works, then I'll give them about my company, and then later when they have understood like what we do, why we do, and how they can use it, I'll just give them an instance of how other people are using it and how they have helped others. So this way they have a whole story in their mind, like from the starting where they did not know like what a particular product is, to how XYZ companies increasing their revenue by using this product. So it really helps and simplifies your own task to explain someone how your product can help them. So
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah, very interesting point with the gated content. Rishi?
Yeah, so I think the very fundamental thing that we need to look at here is data points. So firstly, we need to understand where the customer is in their journey,
Yes.
as well as try to get more data from their engagement with the company. So for example, like there are tools through which you can find that a customer has spent X amount of time on a particular page. There are also like heat mapping tools on which you can find what are the areas where people are clicking more or spending more time. So I think through that kind of tools, you will know that, okay, this kind of people or this many number of people are spending more time here. So then let's show them that particular message. Or if they're spending more time on like the product page, then you know that they are still deciding whether they should buy the product or not. They're coming back again and again. So then you can give them an offer that, okay, here's 10% discount, buy the product. So
Yeah.
essentially, it's just to gather more data about the customer as much as you can. And one last thing I would like to add here is there's also this new thing coming in marketing, that's AI, use of AI in marketing, and that's really going to drive the whole recommendation engine of how like customers should be targeted. through different kind of content, and AI will learn on its own over a period of time. So I think that will be very killer in the times to come.
Yeah, it is already shaping up to be very interesting. Ashutosh?
Like I said, we are the customer centric company from the day one, and we're currently using Clever Tap. You must have heard about that. So we are tracking the customers each and every level. Where they are facing issue, what is the behavior, what is the how so we as a company. I think we used to like in product, but now we are in the pandemic helps to build the product best we can, right? And we are understanding the pain points, right? What customer needs and what we are, right? Where we can help them to reach their expectation. And in anything, it's not about glitch, it's all about the smoothness towards the end of the page, right? Like Rishi said, you can track the customer where they left their app. We can maybe in my app fair estimate में उन्होंने क्या app open करा, maybe they maybe they close the app when there is no captain arrived. So it means it's a different journey, and you need to see where you are lacking, right?
Yes.
To understand very closely with the customer where you can find a space and fill that space to become a good product.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And it's like actually they're expecting this, right? Like when you say intent based, it's something that they've done that has given you that signal to do something else. So yeah, totally very valid point over there. That
One more point I need to add here. So like a lot of tools are here to tell you that X number of customers comes to your platform the last couple of days, and they have opened the app but they are not using your
Yes.
services, right? So we can retargeting them that they might. So and there's a verification. You can make them differentiate whether they are stuck at the estimate. They might think we are overcharging. They might think I'm not good, whether they are not able to get the riders, right? So accordingly, you can set a campaign for set of customer to come back to a platform.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Aarti, what's your take on intent based?
So actually, again, in my business model, so adding to what everybody else said, right? And some of the things that most regular businesses, I would say, or rather non-style of businesses need to do is we need to make a lot of assumptions. I actually flipped that and said, okay, I don't want to build a business model where I have to make so many assumptions when I have a very legit way of asking my customer what they're doing, what they want, where they are stuck. So like in fashion, for example, we kind of track browsing patterns and remarketing in fashion, I think, is one of the worstly probably done practices, right? Because if you've seen somebody hang out on a product page, now you keep chasing them with that product. I may have actually dropped out of that because I did not end up wanting to buy that product, right? Now you're spending your advertising money chasing me for a product which I actually was not interested in. Because capturing that, it's binary, but capturing that which stage I am in with that product. Why did I spend 10 minutes here and choose not to do it? Price need not have been the only factor. We often get very tripped up in thinking that, oh, let me give a 10% discount and this person will convert. Why are you thinking that pricing is where they're tripping? There could be so many other factors in the purchase cycle. So I think the intent for us at Stylelook, very often, again, we also take it from our users. We have a lot of data about them, about something as simple as the date of birth, which allows you to kind of understand what is the cycle. Very often people will shop around a birthday. I already know that, right? For me also, once a customer converts, again, I ask them, like, how next would you like to, when next are you likely to shop? I actually calendar that request from my user already. So that's sitting and guessing. Let me not guess that this customer has lapsed for 2 months, so therefore now I need to bring them back. Or how do I know what is the frequency of that customer? Why doesn't the customer herself tell me what it is? And I get the ability, and it's also permission based, therefore. So I'm not creeping people out.
Yeah, true. Very, very interesting insights on this session. Thank you all for joining in. It has been an absolute pleasure to host all of you. For now, I'm going to end the session. And since we're on AirMeet, you have the opportunity to network with the people that are attending and maybe take on some questions one-on-one. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, everybody that has taken part in the journey so far of Marketing Rapid Fire. Episode 12 will be in another 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that, and we really look forward to welcoming you back. Thank you all so much, and have a lovely weekend ahead.
Thanks, Vanshika. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Vanshika.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you guys.